Welcome to the Level Up Life podcast. I'm your host, Scottie Hobbs. Today, we're going to have a deep dive into the world of peptides with Jared McDonald, the founder of Total Metabolism Reboot. He's helped over 1,500 women lose weight and feel better. You'll learn what peptide therapy is, the benefits and the dangers, as well as an intro to AI technology and the all-natural bioactive peptides. Jared, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so glad to be here. I am a metabolism specialist, so I have a program called the Metabolism Reboot. For the last 7 years or so, I have been coaching people, and I've worked a lot with women mainly. Even though I'm not a woman over 40, that's kind of like 90% of my clients. 95% of my clients are women over 40, and we're just helping them address some of the root imbalances in their body so that they can lose weight, feel great, address a lot of the things that happen during menopause, particularly. And then they lose weight and they see tremendous results. They feel better and they learn to keep it off. And rather than, it's a little bit different approach that way than just like calories in, calories out, which tends to not work for women as they age. So that's a little bit about, what I've been doing. We've worked with, I don't know, 1,500
Wow.
women one-on-one, and our average results are about 24 and a half pounds in 6 weeks. So
That's
we see some
incredible.
pretty cool stuff. So it's fun.
That's awesome. Incredibly rewarding, I imagine, to see thousands of people just feel better.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's I
Yeah,
think
it
that's
is.
what we all want, not just a weight number on the scale, but we just want to feel good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's what I always say is I always say that weight loss is a side effect. Most people like that, but the fact that we feel so much better and we have our energy back and our brain fog's gone and our, all those things start happening. We learn to think differently. We learn to think like healthy people as well. And it's the weight loss is just the side effect of feeling great. So
I love that. Well,
yeah.
let's dive into this world of peptides a little bit. So, just to have some general knowledge, what are peptides?
Yeah, so peptides are basically you've got amino acids, which a lot of people have heard about. Amino acids are like the building blocks of everything in our body, essentially. Not everything, but a lot of our protein, our muscle, those types of things. And so what happens is when these amino acids get bonded together, they create a peptide. And different bonds, different lengths of bonds all do something different in our body. And so these peptides act as like little messengers. So if you have, three or four different peptides amino acids bonded together, that might help with, say, ligament repair in your body, or another strain or length or whatever might act to help balance leptin and ghrelin or your neurotransmitters or whatever it is. So peptides are like messengers, and the analogy I like to use is that if your DNA is like the lock, a peptide is a key to help unlock it so that it does something specific, right? And so there's lots of peptides, and they all do something different. They're those little messengers for kind of a healing process and a specific function in our body. So that's kind of what essentially a peptide is, just in nature or in our bodies, and kind of what's happening with that.
Okay. So, I like that. I heard something the other day when I was doing some studies that there's like 7,000 peptides or something like that in the body and millions in nature,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So how does one find these peptides, or where are peptides generally found?
Yeah, so it's really a lot of it is where amino acids are found, right? So a lot of bodybuilders have been using branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids now, and that's essentially what where you're going to get peptides is from amino acids. So very rich amino acid rich foods are where you're going to find them. So all your your animal meats, your beans and lentils, oats, flaxseed, hemp, all that. So eggs, whey, wheat, milk, like all everything that has protein in it has some sort of amino acid, but you're going to find most of them in your meat products, like animal products, because they are the ones that have the most a complete amino acid profile. Not to say you can't find good peptides specifically, or these amino acids that bond together in plants, but most your amino acids are going to be in your proteins rich foods as far as that goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the first that I started to hear about peptides were like some injectable peptides, and whether it's for like repairing ligaments or losing weight, right, are the main ones that I've kind of heard about. So, what is like what is peptide therapy? Like someone goes in and they get a peptide therapy. That's a common phrase I've heard. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so most people have heard of Ozempic, right? Most people have heard of semaglutide. Most people don't know that other peptides like insulin has been around since like 19 whatever. Like I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I've been on insulin since I was 4 years old for the last 30 whatever years. And so peptides have been around for a long time. A lot of people have heard of like collagen peptides, which are very popular in the last 5 years or whatever, right? So peptide therapy is this idea that you can get a peptide, because remember, a peptide's a messenger for a specific purpose in your body. And so they're saying, hey, if we could get that peptide to be used like on its own to do something in the body, that would be amazing. So insulin essentially does that, right? And then you've got peptides. Well, a lot of people who are athletes and bodybuilders use them for like their ligament repair, and or people have injuries, right? They use peptides for that. But the most popular lately is for fat loss, right? The whole semaglutide, GLP-1, that whole conversation is utilizing peptides to get the body to send signals to do specific things like burn fat or reduce hunger, cravings, those types of things. And so that's essentially just what peptide therapy is using a peptide to do something very specific in the body that we're just trying to target, right? We're getting precise with what we want it to do in the body to get a specific outcome.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have these peptides. There's really just there's two different kinds of peptides. Like, what are the difference? What are those two types of peptides, and what are the difference? Because there's like a synthetic
Yeah.
one that you're talking about.
Yeah, so there are two different kinds of I mean, there's lots of peptides, right? But as far as peptide therapy goes, there's synthetic peptides, which is what like semaglutide, right? They're made in a lab, they're formulated, those are two different, or that's kind of the synthetic part of it. Some of them they make in the lab, some of them they're pulling from other things, like they pull from plants, whatever. But like a common one that was first used with weight loss came from like Gila monster venom, right? And so they're either pulling it from something and altering it, and or they're just making it in the lab, and so they're using kind of a synthetic version of it. And then a nature-derived peptide is coming from plants, right? So when you eat, say, protein, you get satiated. It's more feeling. It helps build muscle because of all of the amino acids and peptides in there doing those jobs. And so these are derived from something in nature, right? And so they're often talked about as natural or bioactive peptides that are just natural. They come from plants and animals. And there's some big differences that I think are important to talk about as well. Like with synthetic peptides, there's some major problems with it. One is that they have to be injectable most of the time. And we can talk, I think, a little bit more about like the digestive tract and how peptides don't usually survive the digestive tract in a synthetic form. So they're usually injectable. They're pretty expensive. I think the average for like Ozempic specifically is like $1,200 a month. If you don't have it through your through your insurance, you have to do an injection, right? That kind of thing. Versus a bioactive peptide you're getting in nature, um, you're just ingesting it. You eat something and you're getting a bioactive peptide. And we can talk more about like how they're using these now in therapeutic senses. And they're not injectable because they can survive that digestive tract. They're way cheaper. And the other problem, which I think we can dive into as well, that probably deserves a little more time, is the side effects of synthetic versus using something natural. And so that's kind of the difference is the synthetic ones have their place, I think, like I have to survive on them every day. But there's a lot of problems with it. There's some setbacks for people. They're expensive, they're hard to use, there's side effects. Versus if we can get them at nature, if we can get them natural, we can kind of avoid a lot of those problems, I think, and utilize them to help improve our health overall.
Okay, see, so you mentioned can be some side effects.
Yeah.
What are some of those side effects for the synthetic ones, especially for weight loss?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main topics right now because like the company that makes Ozempic is the biggest company in Europe right now. It's crazy. And they're trying to like push it into like Medicare and Medicaid, which is going to cost taxpayer dollars thousands of dollars for this. But here's some of the issues. I think generally there's a lot of side effects. Like 80% of the people who use them have GI problems, vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, sometimes actual paralyzation of the stomach, which is your gastroparesis. But then there's actually like a black box warning for like thyroid cancers, especially if you have risk of that, blindness, kidney issues, gallbladder. Like there's a lot of issues, but I think there's two major issues and
Mhm.
that I see. And the first one is that the muscle to fat loss when you're on a semaglutide is very disproportionate. I've seen studies as high as like 40 to 45% muscle loss
Wow.
compared to fat. Now, if you're looking at, if you talk about like what is our number one indicator of our health, it's muscle to fat ratios. You need less fat, more muscle. And so this is a huge problem. And everybody's like, I just want to lose weight. But if we're losing a massive amount of muscle, like if you lost 50 pounds, 30 of that might come from fat and 20 of that might come from muscle. And of course, you're going to have some water in there and some inflammation and things. But so that's one problem is we're losing massive muscle, but comes with that is that most people are stopping like 75% of people stop using these within a 1 to 2 year period because of all the other side effects, or they're too expensive. And then the statistics are that about 2/3 of the people, or sorry, about 1 year after, people have gained 2/3 of the weight back. So I put that in perspective. If you lost 50 pounds, 30 of it was fat, 20 of it was muscle, and then you stop the peptide a year later, you're going to gain 33 pounds back without muscle. So you're now way unhealthier because you lost muscle and you gained all your fat back. So you're more insulin resistant, you have more metabolic syndrome problems. Like you're not healthier because you lost weight, because you lost muscle. And I think that's one of the major problems is that you're losing muscle, but statistically people are just gaining the weight back because they're too expensive, there's too many side effects, and they get this rebound effect because it's not a natural process within the body. And so now you're worse off with less muscle, and it's going to be harder to lose it the next time because you don't have that muscle tone. You're more insulin resistant because of it. So I think that's one major problem that, like, I'm just going to pause because I think that's a powerful, that's like anybody who cares about their longevity needs to care about muscle, right? And I know you've been in the like the health and exercise and fitness space for a long time. Like muscle is key, right? Like it's so powerful. I think that's one of the major problems that we run into with synthetic for sure.
Yeah. Man, just
So
listening to you say that's scary.
it is scary. Well, it's very frightening. Like this is all we could spend 2 hours just talking about the problems, but it's really scary that like it's become such a craze, and all these people are like, I just got to lose weight, and unfortunately a lot of it is women, and men use it too. But like our society puts so much pressure on women to look a certain way and be a certain way that they'll go to these measures to lose weight, and then a year or two later. Like they come to me and they're like, I tried Ozempic, I tried these things, and nothing worked. And so because there's these major imbalances, they lost muscle mass. And the other problem is when women get into their 40s, men too, it's just a more gradual process. But when women get into their 40s, estrogen changes. And estrogen is what maintains muscle mass for women. So that's one of the major issues with menopause is that they lose all their muscle, not all, but a very large percent of muscle mass goes away with these changes in estrogen. So if you're already having muscle loss and then you're going to gain weight and you're insulin resistant and you have more inflammation anyway, and you go on a semaglutide to lose more muscle mass, you're not healthier in the end. You're going to actually have more metabolic issues down the road. And I'm a little bit worried. My biggest worry is in 10 years from all these people who've been on Ozempic, like what's the long-term metabolic consequences of that? I don't think we're going to be any better off. I think we're going to be worse off with other health issues because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty scary.
Yeah.
So
We could talk about
anyway,
that forever.
yeah, you can seriously talk about that forever. So I want to talk about the other issue though, and I kind of mentioned this
Yeah.
is that the other problem, not just the side effects of the synthetic, but peptides in general, one of the major problems is they can't survive the digestive system. And
Okay.
so they have to be injected, right? So when you eat, there's this massive process your body goes through. You got to break the protein down by chewing it. Saliva does a job. It goes into your stomach and all the acid. You get all these enzymes that start to break down your protein into smaller pieces. And so they get broken down into peptides that can be throughout your body and start doing their job, and eventually broken down into amino acids that can be absorbed in the bloodstream and travel through your liver. And so for the last however many years, like peptides can't be absorbed through the digestive system, so they have to be done through an injection. And that's messy. It's not fun. It's expensive. And so that's one of the major problems is because of the digestive system, and they haven't figured it out with these synthetic ones. It's been a major issue, I think, for the last 30 years that makes it hard for the average person to be able to use peptides to enhance their health, I think. So I think that's the other issue that is key.
Yeah. So what are some natural solutions for peptides with new science that's coming out and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, this is the exciting part because we talk about these two different types of peptides and we think, okay, like Well, I like the idea of peptides. I mean, anything that we live in such a crazy world and processed world and stressful world that like we got to find ways to get a little leg up on our health nowadays. And so I think utilizing peptides is something that we can see major change with. And so until now, literally until like the last few years, really, there hasn't been the ability to get peptides from nature very well. I mean, collagen peptides are kind of like one of the first things that we kind of look at and say, cool, this we can do this. But until really this last year, which we're going to talk about a specific company that figured out how to utilize peptides from nature. And so we can actually use, like the average person can get them. They're cheap. They're not going to have all these crazy side effects. Like there's so many cool things that start happening with these bioactive peptides that we can pull from nature. But it really wasn't also until the AI. Like AI got so advanced in the last few years that allowed us to say, how do we get these peptides? How do we use them? Which ones are going to be best? How can we get them to survive the digestive system and figure out how to do that and then put it into basically a supplement that you can just take and buy and utilize to optimize health. So yeah, I think that's like just like it's revolutionary. Like it literally in the next 5 to 10 years, I believe that everybody will be taking peptides. It's kind of like everybody knows what colostrum is right now because in the last 2 years it's like, oh, you got to take colostrum. You know, all these companies, everybody knows what peptides are for collagen because it's happened in the last few years. And I think we're going to see that with other peptides being used for therapeutic purposes, if you will. But they're going to be natural. You don't have to buy them from a doctor or get a prescription or something like that, which we're already doing, right? You're taking them, I'm taking them. So it's really exciting, which we can definitely talk about kind of the process of what's happened, I think, with this company. But that's kind of the general idea is we now can pull them from nature because using AI, we can kind of identify that.
Yeah, I was listening to something where there's like millions of peptides in nature and like finding the exact chain of the amino acids to target a specific thing was number one. How do you do that? And the AI technology help with that. And then number two, I'm hearing you say, then you have to make sure it can get through the digestive tract
Yep.
and serve its function without breaking up apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was going to say on that note, like I think the challenge has been is no human could ever identify which peptides. I mean, we could identify like, hey, there's peptides in whey or there's peptides in beef. There's all these peptides everywhere, but like which ones are going to do the job? And once we identify like which one will survive in the human the best, or which one would do it best in the human,
yeah.
and AI can run that instantaneous. I mean, I don't know how long it takes for AI to do it, but it's very fast to be able to identify millions of peptides and which ones would work in our body and how, like it's an amazing process that AI has been able to accomplish for us. I think it's really
Yeah.
cool.
That's incredible. I feel incredibly awesome. So I'm 43 and I've had strength gains and I was working out with one of my friends who's 30, he's 32. He didn't realize I was 43. We were doing a workout together. We were a weekend and I was like an hour into the workout and I was like, dude, we should hit another 20 minutes. Let's go do this. He's like, you can still go. And I'm like, I can still go. Like I just feeling incredibly strong and my recovery's really quick and my energy levels are high. So I feel super good with it. Now I want to just ask you, just what are some of the peptides with this company? Tell me a little bit about it and what they've discovered, what these peptides
Yeah.
do, their focus.
Yeah, for sure. So the company that has first really kind of done this and worked with like research companies is called Make Wellness, and they have used AI to identify, where these peptides in nature, pull them out, run through all the trials, put them into supplements, run clinical trial. Like it's been really cool to see them kind of put this together and go through extensive testing on the what these all these companies that are researching this are doing. Like they're running it through like a simulation of gastric digestion. Like how are we going to make it through? And then what are we seeing because of all this? What are the outcomes? Which is really cool. And so kind of like high level, they identified basically there's 4 peptide products that they figured out, one for focus, one for energy, one for weight loss, and one for muscle. And then they also know, and I've been doing this for years with my clients individually, is we need other things to help do those jobs, like electrolytes. You can't burn fat without adequate minerals in your body. So electrolytes are key. And then also things to calm your nervous system down, to reduce cortisol. Because if your nervous system is heightened, it's going to have a hard time digesting, hard time burning fat, hard time building muscle. You're going to get too much cortisol. And so your nervous system is a really, really key thing. And so they have two support products that they said, hey, if you take these with these peptides, you're going to see better progress. And so they create this kind of synergistic effect with some of that to help utilize the products better in our body, and calm our nervous systems down, which is, I think, we're all stressed. And so it helps with all kinds of things. And we can dive into each product specifically, but those are like the four main focuses is energy focus, fat loss, and muscle, and then making sure that we're supporting the body in other ways to utilize all those things.
Awesome. I would love to go. I'd love to have you go through those. And first, you and I were having a conversation. We were sitting around my living room with some other friends last week, and you were talking about just how difficult, you mentioned specifically like 10, 15 years ago, you could get a lot of the nutrients that you need from the food, the soil, everything, but
Yeah.
it's much different these days. Could you just talk about that briefly of why it's important to do some sort of supplementation, whether it's peptides or vitamins,
Yeah.
minerals, before we talk
Yeah,
about
and I get this like pushback sometimes from my clients who are like, I don't want to take all these pills. I don't want to take all these things. And it kind of gets expensive. Like, I don't want to spend 100, $200, $300 on supplements a month, type of thing. And so the challenge is when I got into my health journey, my wife got sick like 12 years ago. When we first got married, we married 13 years this year. And about 6 months after she got sick. So we just went on this health journey, and I was overweight. I'm 5'10". I was like 220 pounds, not very muscular, a type 1 diabetic, food addict. Like, we just went on this journey. And when I first started diving into the world of like root cause, like what is causing our problems? Weight gain's a symptom. Low energy, brain fog, everything is a symptom. What causes those things? We got healthy. I lost a bunch of weight. My wife, we figured out what was going on, and we got healthy. But back then, I think the general sentiment was amongst people and researchers is that if we utilize real food and whole food, and we just really eat a nutrient rich diet that's anti-inflammatory and those type of things, we can get everything we need. Get some sunlight, exercise, get good sleep, and in general, you'll be pretty good. But what we've learned in the last 10 years, and really even in the last 3 to 5 years, is that our soil is completely depleted of nutrients. It's because from all of our farming practices, of course, there's a bunch of other junk on our foods that they spray on it, whatever. But we also live very stressed lives, which then depletes your minerals and depletes other nutrients in your body. Your immune system starts to shut down. We don't have very good digestive systems because of our stress, and we eat a lot of processed food. So a combination of all of these things, like the new food doesn't have the nutrients, and we can't get the nutrients out of the food anyway. And so it's really hard. Like an example of this that I've seen research done on is it would take about 7 or 8 pears in order to get the nutrients that one pear had 50 years ago.
wow.
Crazy, right? And organic food is about 30% more nutritious than non-organic food, but it's still not as nutritious as it was even 40 or 50 years ago. And so I have very much changed my mindset that it is very difficult, if not impossible, to be healthy in our day and age without some sort of support, nutritional support, supplements, things like that. And then also I would throw in, if you're already overweight or you already have other symptoms happening like brain fog, low energy, you have other chronic illnesses, like you have to use support to get your body back in balance. Like if your body's out of balance, food won't get it back in balance by itself. Because I get a lot of people like, well, I ate clean, I ate super well, but I'm not losing weight. And I'm like, it's because you got major insulin resistance happening that you haven't addressed yet, or you have, a lot of inflammation in your body that you have to address that you can't just always do through food alone. So I think it's the combination of the way we live, but also we're so out of balance now that we've got to have support for a while at least to get our bodies back in balance through some supplements, which is why I'm a big fan. And some people are like, okay, give me the basic ones. And some people are like, give me all of them. Like, like I have cupboards full of supplements in my home, and I don't use them all always, but I've used a lot over the years because everything does something different. And so as I've tried to support health, you can always get different things. And so I think there's some key things you can use, which is why I like these peptides, because if you're looking to accomplish a certain goal, like I'm all about like the minimum amount of thing we have to do to get that goal and still
Mhm.
achieve the goal. And so if we have something that's like, give me my biggest bang for my buck, then I think these peptides are really cool for that reason, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to target exactly what you want it to do.
Yeah, that's what I love. I've had a lot of conversations about, well, I'm taking this supplement, whether it's like a protein shake or something like that, and they're like, "What's the difference?" I'm like, it's not even the same thing. Like a
Yeah.
peptide goes in and specifically targets exactly what it needs, and so I've had a great experience. So I just want to ask you, let's go through some of the peptides. I know you mentioned there's 4 peptides and some support. Do you want to go through all of those and just kind of share what they do, what their function is, what they're proven to do?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first one that most people are excited about is the lean product. It's called lean, and because that's the goals, we all want to get lean, right? And this is for weight loss, right? And so what happened? So what this product is it's specific peptides, and then what they do is they combine other things in it, like orange extract or grapefruit extract or things like that, that can also help support the body with improving, our leanness or fat burning. And so I think this product is amazing because I'm a food addict and I've been to 12-step programs for addiction recovery. It's a problem in my life, and I'm always looking for something to negate cravings, right? Because I'm like, mine are off the charts. And so one of the cool things that this product does is it helps balance leptin and ghrelin levels. So it helps just keep those in check, which are your hunger hormones, right? So when leptin and ghrelin are resistant, and you're going to be hungry, and it often goes along with insulin resistance. So that's a big thing. That also helps with kind of the brain, the gut axis to help regulate hunger as well, and also helps just opening up and being able to allow the body to burn fat and those kind of metabolic pathways, which I think is really cool. So yeah, just enhancing our ability for our body to utilize energy, which we talk about boosting metabolism. That's essentially what that means, is it's our body can utilize energy better. And so what the cool part about this is, after their clinical trials on this, they found that 100% of the weight loss came from fat mass, which
That's
compared to other like peptides, remember, up almost as high as 45%, 40 to 45% is what I've seen, 30, 40. So 100% coming from fat mass, and 65% came from the trunk, the midsection, which is all your visceral fat that's very unhealthy, very, 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 very scary to have extra visceral fat as far as that goes. So I think the average was about 600 less calories a day that people were eating, and reduced cravings, sweets, those types of things. People are losing, circumference on their waist. Anyway, I think it's a really cool thing and it's not GLP-1. It's not the peptide, the glucagon-like peptide, which is GLP-1, to help reduce hunger. It's a totally different peptide that does a whole different process in the body, which I think is really cool. So that's a lean product, which I think has some really cool benefits that way.
You say
So
100% of the weight loss from fat. That's incredible. Is for that, just
I've heard of
remembering
it.
the importance of maintaining your muscle mass.
Yeah, and again, if you're over 40, you're losing muscle 3 to 5% every decade, and then once you hit 50 and 60, it just keeps going, like up to like 8% every decade. And so if you're looking to lose weight, you don't want to just lose weight, you want to lose fat. And so this helps with that. It's just that gives you that leg up to get it from the fat, which is really key.
Incredible.
So yeah.
So that's the lean.
Yeah.
What's another one?
That's lean. So the next powerhouse with that, the combo, is fit, is what that product is. And fit's all about muscle, because again, muscle to fat ratios are the key. That's the longevity key. Like the longevity organ is muscle. Now you don't want a lot of muscle and fat, so that's why this is a great combination. So fit's really cool, and then it does so many cool things. So it's supporting your body's process of maintaining muscle and building muscle. So you get, I think it was 4 times the protein synthesis. That is so key. Like compared to, like, if you're just drinking whey or other types of proteins like that, whey is actually one of the most bioavailable protein sources on the market, or that we've studied ever. Like, you get the most out of it, but this helps get 4 times that, which is bonkers. Like, anybody who's an athlete should be like, sign me up. Like, what do I do to get this? So, and then with that, you're getting less fatigue. About 47% was the trials, where you can come back to baseline strength levels, to a higher level of strength. 103% recovery versus if you're just taking whey protein, which is about 68%. So you have faster recovery, less fatigue after a workout, about a 54% increase in performance in the gym, less inflammation in the body, which is like something I've seen a huge. I'm really prone to inflammation, and so that's been huge. And I think part of that is you get this NAD production. And then we could have a whole podcast on NAD, but NAD is this compound in our body that is crucial for so many things: DNA repair, inflammation, anti-aging, sleep, like all of these things. And by utilizing this peptide, it was like 2.7 more. You got better utilization, about 2.7 more than if you just took a normal dose of NAD.
Wow.
So like really, really cool. Like that alone is like everybody should be on fit. Like everybody should, because NAD actually drops as we age as well. And so does your protein synthesis and all of those types of things. And so, you know, if you're looking for anti-aging, everybody's trying to get NAD levels to come up in your body, which real food and exercise does those things. But again, having something that helps your body do that 2.7 times better, you're anti-aging. Essentially, you're going backwards in that. You're getting better ATP, which is the real problem. Is it's the cellular energy that your body needs. If your cells don't work, you get wrinkles, you get poor energy, you get brain fog. And so that NAD helps with all of these things, which that's probably the thing I've seen the most personally. Is just I feel like first time I hit the gym after a week of taking fit, I felt like the Hulk. I texted you, I was like, I'm like throwing weight around that. Like the week before, I was like, I can barely, like, I'm like pushing to get this. And I think it's been cool. I think I put on maybe 2 or 3 pounds of muscle, just, you know, based on my scale. That's very inaccurate. Of course, it's not a DEXA scan, but I think consistently I'm 2 to 3 pounds more muscle mass than I was 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've been using it for 90 days, and it's funny. I come home and I tell my wife, I'm like, so I go later when everybody else is at work, and it's all the old guys and me. And almost every day or every other day, one of the guys comes up. He's like, "Man, you must be doing something right," just because they've seen me there for 4 or 5 years, and they've just been seeing the last few weeks what has been happening, and I can obviously feel it too. So I feel so good with it. Funny thing, I didn't tell you this. My dad is using Fit and Lean as well, and he's working on getting to 175. He started over 200, and he's on his way there. But he's like, the craziest thing, he's like, when I get up from sitting on the couch or sitting anywhere, my knee just like is so tight and it like pops. And he's like, it's loose. Like it doesn't pop when I stand up anymore. And I was like, he's like, what is that doing? I'm like, it's probably the inflammation going down in your joints.
Totally.
So that's
totally
cool.
that which is such a critical indicator for you. I mean, you're not tracking inflammation levels on labs every day, but when you're less stiff, like I would wake up in the morning with stiff hands, especially if I ate like a bunch of sugar the night before. Like I get really stiff because inflammation literally is deteriorating your body from the inside out. It is linked to not just correlative, but causal to every chronic disease on the planet. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, like you name it, inflammation is involved. And so like a lot of people are really stiff because of it. They're sore. They feel like they're low energy and they're like, oh, it's just aging. It's like, no, you just have more inflammation in your body now. And when that starts to go away, people are like, this old injury's not there anymore. Or my knee's not hurting, right? And they can move better. They're more mobile. They have more energy. And it's all due to that decrease in inflammation, which is really cool. So
Awesome.
yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful things about all of these things that I've seen is that's reducing inflammation with that NAD production. Yeah.
That's cool. So let's talk about, you want to move on to another one?
Yeah, sure.
Which one you want? Energized or
we'll hit Energize. I think that's a good one. So
I got it right here.
Yeah, right there. So I know this is like Scottie's favorite, right? And you can probably talk about this as well as I could, but this is all about your like fatigue fighter, right? It's specifically helping with all your like dopamine and your neuroepinephrine and epinephrine and catecholamines, like to get things working better in your body, your ATP. It's amazing. And that ATP are those little energy factories in your cell that you want to get more of. You want more energy in your life, get your ATP functioning better. You want to decrease your wrinkles, you want to age better, get your ATP working better. And so this is super, super key for that. I think it's also cool that it's helped with like, I mean, there's other things like there's a ginseng peptide. It's not actual ginseng, but it's the peptide they get from it that helps with things like mood and that neurotransmitter helps that sustainable energy. It's preserving things like glycogen and other things for the energy. So I think like a lot of things start to happen with this where you're getting reduced cortisol levels. You're helping support the adrenal function. Your mental fatigue goes down, all of these things. And it's not like a jittery energy. It's like sustained energy throughout the day because you're helping the natural processes, which is why I don't love like people who just get on all these like stimulants and coffee and caffeine and all these things that they're taking 400, 500, 600 milligrams of caffeine a day. They're ruining their natural energy systems in their body, so they have to rely on fake energy. I mean, energy drinks, all that stuff, it actually deteriorates your energy system, so you have to keep using it and more of it over time to have energy. And this does the opposite. This helps repair, I think, a lot of those energy systems like the adrenals, your neurotransmitters, your ATP production, so that it's natural energy throughout the day, which I think we all could probably benefit from a little bit more. So I know you've seen some, you talk about this one all the time. Like, what are you seeing taking energized?
Yeah, so it's been so good for me. I'm that person that you were talking about, and I didn't know I was destroying my adrenal system and my energy system.
Yeah.
I would drink 600 to 800 milligrams of pre-workout in a day. Like
Hmm.
I'd use it to get out of bed. I'd use it before my workout. I'd use it like midday to get on a Zoom like this or something. And then my kids would get home from school, and I was like, I need some more to go throw football. And then some friends would be like, I want to play some video games, and I'd take some so I wasn't like, so I felt like my brain was faster, but I was just like using this fast short-term energy burst. And I think that's been the biggest thing, the shift for me is my energy is just like it's like 100 milligrams a day, 200 if I'm using my Fit basically, and I'm good for the day, and I feel just so much better. And I'm sleeping better at night too. Not surprising.
Not surprising, yeah. Well, that's one of those things which we haven't talked about the product Calm, but I've done a lot of research. I just made a post inside of my group about how these things have affect sleep specifically. But this one, like if you're drinking caffeine, a lot of caffeine throughout the day, depending on what you're getting it from, the half-life of caffeine lasts a long time. So if you drink caffeine, like people who drink coffee, I always tell my clients, if you're gonna drink coffee, you got a window. You got like a 10 o'clock to 12, maybe 1 o'clock. Don't drink it in the morning. Drink it from 10 to 11 because otherwise it's going to ruin your ability to sleep at night. And it's going to deteriorate your energy system so that you're going to wake up feeling unrested and all these kinds of things. And so that's what's so cool about this is there's only about 100 milligrams of caffeine extracted from coffee, which creates this like longer sustained energy release. You get energy right away, but it helps with sustained energy because of the peptides. So there's a little bit of caffeine, but like not very much. I mean, it's really comparatively to a pre-workout or something. It's 600 or 700 grams of caffeine is a lot, and this is 100 milligrams. So
Yeah.
not say grams, but milligrams. So I think this is such a powerful product because it helps, I think, repair the body's natural energy systems while giving you natural energy so you don't just crash going off all your caffeine, and so you have some energy to get through it. But over time you'll just naturally be healthier because your body's working better, which is really cool. So you'll wake up more rested and have energy throughout the day. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then combining that, I think it's probably a good time to maybe talk about one of the support products. Electrolytes are key. They have a product called Hydrated. I have been using electrolytes for years, and all of my clients, it's like game changer. I cannot function without electrolytes. And electrolytes are basically just your minerals in your body, right? And our water, we used to all drink water straight from rivers and springs and wells because humans didn't have pipes and filtration system 200 years ago, and so we got a lot of minerals naturally from food and animals. And we used to eat a lot more animal products like liver and heart and stuff like that. It has a lot of minerals in it, and so we don't do that anymore. We're all chronically dehydrated because one, we don't drink enough water, but the water we drink has no minerals in it. And so I always joke and say, if you're tired, if you have a headache, if you're moody, if you're irritable, if you're sad, electrolytes are the answer. Like, always go for your electrolytes because your body can't burn fat without proper hydration, which means water and electrolytes. You can't have good energy without proper hydration, which means water and electrolytes. Your cells can't work without it. Your body can't build muscle properly. So for years, my pre-workout has been electrolytes. I wake up, I drink, my electrolytes 30 minutes before my workout, and I take no caffeine for years. And electrolytes have been a key thing for that. But if you can combine that now with Energize and Fit and a few of these other things, like I think it's going to be we're seeing across the board with all the people coming back with testimonials, even what you just said, it's a powerhouse combination for
Yeah.
improved energy and cellular function. I think it's really cool.
You know what's funny? This Energized right here is actually this whole thing was full with a packet of Energized and a packet of Hydrated mixed. It's my favorite combo.
There you go.
The
Yeah,
taste
and
combo of
that's
those two
like
together.
honestly, like if you have low energy, put those two, just like you just said, Scotty. And of course, I would take fit as well. And you're going to see some major change, especially if you're dragging but if you want to hit the gym and you're trying to tone up, lean down, all those types of things. Like I know we talk about lean for weight loss, but like fit, energized, and hydrated with the electrolytes, that will help you lose weight in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think just because of what it's doing, but then you combine it with lean, and it's a very powerful combination for energy, muscle, fat loss. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We always want to recommend somebody do some sort of strength training for your muscle. But I have a question for you. Would
Yeah.
fit help even if someone's not lifting weights right now? Is it going to be beneficial to them?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking me that. Like, well, I'm not working out right now. Like my mother-in-law, actually, we were talking about this morning. I was like, you guys need to get on the peptides. Like, let's do it because they're in their 70s, and I'm like, well, I'm not really. You're supposed to lift heavy weights. I'm not doing that. I'm like, no, no, no. You need fit regardless because remember, protein synthesis is going down as you age. You're losing muscle as you age. All the things, right? Your body just has all this cortisol, all this inflammation, and so even if you're not working out, all of these things will help you maintain, I mean, fit particularly, but all the other stuff too. Like it will help you maintain muscle mass because of what we talked about, the NAD, the actual building up process of muscle in your body. That process, I mean, you can maintain muscle mass with these, even if you're not working out. And then if you start doing anything, even small things, you'll start to build it faster utilizing this. So if you want to help negate, like I'm always looking for things for my clients because generally most of my clients are 40 and older, of how do we help you negate muscle loss in your life? Like if you want to not fall down when you're in your 70s, if you want to like not break a hip, you need muscle tone. If you want to have good energy, like muscle tone. So you got to stop the decline and even build muscle. Like muscle also knows no age. You can build muscle at 70 the same way you can when you're 20. That's been shown in studies, which is really cool. And so this will help you maintain it even if you're not working out. And then if you can do anything, just do some push-ups, get 5-pound dumbbells, like just anything to stimulate your muscles more. Little by little, you'll start to actually build it and kind of fight that thing. Now, I should mention, this is probably a good topic, is that this doesn't replace like a proper diet or exercise, right? Like you're not going to build muscle just taking these peptides on their own per se. And it's not going to replace like protein. When you get older, one of the best things you can do is also eat adequate protein. Everybody should be shooting for like 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight a day. So if you're 150 pounds, your goal is like 100 and whatever, 120 to 150 or whatever it is, if you're a woman or man. And so if you're eating adequate protein and taking fit, you'll slow that muscle decline dramatically. And then if you do any sort of workout, it'll just help it go much, much faster. So I think that's, yeah, so key. I think people should be on these, or they could benefit from taking these, even if they're not working out.
That's great
So,
advice.
and they might give you a little more energy so you want to work out, which I think is cool, right? You lose
Yeah.
a little bit of weight, start feeling better. You're like, yeah, I can hit the gym. So I think that's a good starting point for a lot of people, which is actually why a lot of people use Ozempic. They use Ozempic to get some momentum with weight loss. And then it oftentimes does help them build healthier habits, which is great. But that's what's so cool about these is it's natural. So you're avoiding all the side effects and the complexity of it and the extra money of it all. And you get a jump start with utilizing these things as well so that they can help you get to the point where you have better habits. You're working out more, you're eating better. You have less cravings, generally speaking, for most people, that I think are super important.
Cool. That's great
So,
advice. Well, let's talk
yeah.
to wrap this up. Let's talk about focused a little. I know you mentioned calm briefly. Do you want to expand on either of those two?
Yeah. We can just hit on both of them really fast. So focus is all about, of course, just focus, feeling more focused. And it's a few different peptides and support things in there that enhance things like blood flow to the brain, antioxidant protection to the brain. Again, you're getting cognitive performance, neurotransmitter function, eye health, even like there's some stuff in there for your eye function, increasing things like your neurotropic factors, which is really important. So focus is really great. For me, like I focus pretty well in the day, but it's been this very subtle, like there's just not as much noise out here, like very little. And for some people, it's like my ADHD's gone. Like it's depending on where you're at. And so even things like memory, cognitive function, super super key for that focus. So I think that's a really great product that you can take. I just take it whenever like I start my work day and I'm like, all right, I can just kind of sustain that throughout the day. Or if you have a big project or something, it's a good time to kind of take that. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so focus is good. And then touching on Calm, Calm is just a support product for the body. It's not an actual peptide per se, but it uses things like ashwagandha, which is very, very popular, GABA, lemon balm, L-theanine. These things are all very, very key for the nervous system, like I mentioned, and reducing cortisol. Like if cortisol drives inflammation, cortisol deteriorates muscle. It stores it right in your hips as fat, right? Like it's cortisol is deteriorating your body from the inside out. And so anything you can do to reduce cortisol, a lot of people take stress relieving like medicinal mushrooms or adrenal support like ashwagandha and things like that and vitamin C. But this is awesome. People are sleeping better because of it. People are like, I feel just a little. I'm pretty like even killed, but I just everything's just a little more like grounded for me taking it. It's really interesting. Also, I was telling my wife this morning, I'm type 1 diabetic, and I would typically wake up in the mornings at about 120 in my blood sugar, which is a little too high. 120 to 130. That's pretty common. I have a pump that kind of regulates it. But since I've been taking these, and I think Calm's a big part of this, is that my cortisol is more regulated. Cortisol drives blood sugar, and I've been waking up in the morning like 80 to 90, which is exactly where you want to be.
Wow.
Like I'm like, this has been amazing. And I think that helps with the inflammation in my hands. The cortisol's lower in general. So that's one of my actual favorite products is Calm and just dropping that cortisol, because that cortisol is going to deteriorate your body really fast, cause a lot of oxidative stress. And so, yeah, super powerful to
That's awesome.
utilize.
I haven't heard you share that with me yet, so that's
Yeah.
cool to hear.
Yeah, it just dawned on me like the last 2 days, and I was talking to my wife this morning because I woke up and my blood sugar was 80. I mean, I'm tracking it all the time with my insulin pump, and I woke up and it was like it's been at like 80 every morning for the last month since I started taking these. Which your fasting glucose is a very good indicator of your blood sugar and insulin resistance and stuff like that. So if you're always waking up and your blood sugar is high, you probably have some insulin resistance, some cortisol imbalance, those types of things. And so I've been really impressed. I'm excited to see what happens over the next month or two with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been kind of
Cool.
so.
Well, to wrap up this conversation today about these peptides, we learned a lot. I even learned a few more things. Like I'm fascinated listening to you talk about it because you've helped people with this type of stuff for 7 years. So I appreciate you coming on here. How would you like to close this out to help anybody take those next steps or know what which one
Yeah,
do I take or what do I do?
yeah. So I think a couple of things. I think one is to always put out the disclaimer that like these aren't magic pills. This like it's not like a really harsh, I'm going to take an injection, it's going to force my body to lose weight. Right? Everybody sees a little bit different results. Like some people the first week they're like, I just dropped 5 pounds. And some people it's like over 60 days, they lean down, they built like I saw a lady who posted, she's like, she didn't have a lot to lose in the beginning. She's like, I lost 5 pounds of fat and gained like 1 to 2 pounds of muscle. She looks completely different, even though it wasn't a huge she didn't lose 50 pounds. She looks super lean and healthy compared to, she was a little flabby on the edges and things like that. And it took her a little longer than someone else who was like, I just lost 5 pounds in the last 3 weeks, right? So everybody responds a little bit differently depending on your lifestyle factors, depending on your genetics and that kind of thing. So I usually tell people plan to take these for like a good 90 days. Give like a lot of supplements are that way. Like they don't like even collagen takes like 60 days to start building up in your body to actually be utilized appropriately. So I would say plan on about 90 days, which you can buy these products and put them on subscription so you save some money. And then on the fourth month, you actually save 20% rather than just 10. So that's always nice. But I would say let's get the ones you feel like you need the most. Like if you're and just pick whatever goal you have. Like if you want better focus and leaner body and more toned or whatever, then pick that, right? Pick those ones. And if you are looking for like specific help, and I know Scottie, you could probably help people too if they're reaching out to you with some of this. But like people in my world, like if you need some help, just message me and let's talk about your goals, and we can help you figure out exactly which ones you need. And then that way you're tailoring it or just take them all. That's kind of what I'm like, cool, let's try them all out and see. And then after about 90 days, you find out which ones really you're benefiting from and keep on those ones. And I think that's a good kind of plan for most people.
Yeah, that's what I did. I took all six at the beginning and then dialed down to I'm using four of them, and I'm like, I can't go without these four. I feel like a superhuman with these four.
It's
Oh,
weird.
but it's funny you talked about one of them today, and I was like, I might get back on that one. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. And I this is my biggest my thing, because I get asked all the time. I was telling one of my coaches in my program about we were talking about this, and I said to her, I said, I don't feel any effects from supplements for years because I generally eat pretty clean. I exercise, I go to sleep. So like there's very few supplements that I notice anything when I take it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I'm noticing things with these, that I'm like, I have less inflammation, which is huge for me. I feel a little more calm, a little more focused, like not huge for me. Now, some people, maybe if your diet's not as good and you haven't been doing it as long, you may notice a bigger change faster, right? And I think that happens. But even for me, like someone who's been, if you're clean eating and you've been exercising for a long time, like it may, you might not see it immediately over the first day, but like over the course of a few weeks, I've been like, I feel a little bit more like a superhuman, especially when I hit the gym. I'm like, seriously, I'm like throwing weights around that I couldn't hardly move before. And I'm like, oh, but yeah, it's been cool that way. So I'm very impressed with these. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you will hear a lot more about bioactive peptides. And I think Make Wellness is the forerunner. It's going to be the doTERRA. Like everybody knows what doTERRA is. Essential oils. 20 years ago, nobody knew what essential oils were. And now everybody knows the name doTERRA because it became popular. And I think that's what Make Wellness will do. And I'm very impressed with the company and what these peptides are doing for people.
Same here. Myself. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the conversation today, Jared. Like he said, if you have questions, like feel free to reach out to him. If you follow me, reach out to me, or if someone sent you this video, like shared it, ask them a question and they'll help you get set up and get started on your own journey as well. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Season 2, and we hope that you enjoyed the conversation we shared with you today. We're here to remind you that your family is your most important work on earth, help you feel better, and learn how to earn more income for your family. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review and share it with a friend. It's time to feel better and level up.